Detroit Lions will rise.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the MVP, the NFL's Most Valuable Player Award for 2024. And I got to tell you, I honestly feel like this award was all but locked up for Jared Goff early in the season. And matter of fact, as the season went on and Josh Allen ended up coming into Detroit and the Lions lost, I thought that Josh Allen looked to many to be the certain pick here for the MVP award. But a few names, honestly, have kind of crept up behind him, Josh Allen, and the battle appears to be, kind of truly on at this point. I know the season's over, and, last year's winner, Lamar Jackson, appears to be the main front runner, if you will, right now, along with Josh Allen. But I am not done talking about Jared Goff and what he did this season because, honestly, if you're just now paying attention, you won't believe what Jared Goff did this season. Let's talk about Lamar for just a second here. Now, the Ravens quarterback has been one of the best this season after throwing for 4,172 yards and 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions while rushing for 915 yards and 4 scores. To be honest with you, we can't really forget about names like Jared Goff and or Joe Burrow. To be realistic here, we can't forget about either of these two players. And Josh Allen, I guess. But, Joe Burrow, for instance, he finished the season as the leading passer in yards, right? But just didn't have a great season. So the question is, and we'll get to it, right? What does MVP mean? But there's this guy, right, Jared Goff, that many thought was an MVP season. I still believe that. It was an MVP season in the making. It sure ended that way in Week 18 with an incredible performance. And for some reason, nobody is talking about number 16, at least outside of Detroit, outside of the scope of Detroit Lions fans. And certainly odds makers, they aren't speaking about Jared Goff at all. So right now, Josh Allen is your favorite at minus 450. Lamar Jackson plus 320. Saquon Barkley plus 8,000. Joe Burrow plus 10,000. And Jared Goff plus 15,000. And Jaden Daniels, an honorable mention at plus 25,000. So let's get into this craziness, right? Having JG in 5th place is crazy. That is the first craziest thing that I've seen all day. When you think about what MVP means, most valuable player, let's start with the definition of MVP. Most valuable player is an accolade or an award originally used in team sports to recognize one player for game-changing excellence and also used outside of sports to recognize excellence in the contributions of an individual to a group effort. Now, MVP is an award given to a sports player who is judged most important to the team, the sport, or the game. Now, for Jared Goff, that dude absolutely put the Detroit Lions on his back this season. He not only broke countless NFL records, personal records, franchise records in 2024, but he played at such an elite level this season and has never, which has never been seen in the NFL, at least with some of the history books that we're about to talk about. So can we answer that question? And that question is, was JG the most valuable player on the Lions team? Was JG the most valuable player to the sport of the NFL, of football this season? Or was Jared Goff the most valuable player to the group, which would be the Detroit Lions? And I hope that we can get there, right? I hope we can answer the question. My first question is this. Could anyone else have replicated what Jared Goff did this season if they were the quarterback for the Detroit Lions? Other than Jared Goff, the second question, who else accomplished the same feats that he did in 2024? I don't think that you can answer those questions for another athlete in the NFL this year. I really don't think you can. Let's start with Jared Goff, okay? It's a long list, so stick with me. But we're going to start at the very top of the stats that matter, and these are going to be the stats that we compare between Jared Goff, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. So QBR, which is a definitive mark on a quarterback, 68.5 this season, his best in his career. Completion percentage. This is one that is highly regarded as the most important, to be honest with you, and that is 72.4% this season, which is the 4th highest in NFL history, right? That's the average of his entire season, all 17 games, 72.4%, 4th highest in NFL history. Jared threw 37 TDs and only 12 interceptions. Well, how about, the game against the Texans? He had 5 interceptions. You tell me another athlete that doesn't get down on themselves in that, particular situation and doesn't end up losing that game. Happens all the time. Jared Goff didn't sweat a bullet. He came right back and won that game. Continued throwing the ball. And that's never been done before in the NFL, by the way. How about 3 straight seasons of improvement for Jared Goff? Every single season now with the Detroit Lions, he's had a better season over the year before. How about this? 9 games above 75% completion rate this year in 2024. How about 5 games above 80% completion rate in 2024? How about 5 games over 300 yards passing in 2024? How about 2 games above 400 yards passing? Nobody else in the NFL did that this year. How about the 5th player in history to throw 40 games over 300 yards in the first 9 seasons of an NFL career as a quarterback? Tell me another player that's done that. All right, there's only 4 more. He threw 5 picks, like I said. Not all his fault against the Texans. Comes back, still wins the game. How about Goff now has 30 games with at least 300 passing yards and a 100 or better passer rating. This now establishes a brand new NFL record for the most games with 300 yards and a passer rating above 100 in the first 9 career seasons. Additionally, Goff has produced 42 career 300-yard passing games through 9 seasons, which has also placed him second in the NFL record books, passing Matt Ryan, Dan Marino, Tony Romo, and Peyton Manning, and of course, yes, Matthew Stafford. Now, we've got a few more records to talk about here. Actually, we have quite a few. Because Jared Goff, like I said, he didn't just have an MVP season. We've never seen a season like this before out of a quarterback, ever. Any team ever has a quarterback done this much in one season in the NFL. Okay, so during the six-game stretch, Goff had the highest completion percentage in the NFL, sitting at 82.6%. And in all those games, Goff had thrown 128 passes and connected 106 times. Again, 82.6% completion rate through 6 games is the highest ever in the NFL through any 6-game stretch to have that high of a completion rate. How about during the Lions' last 6 games of the season? Goff has the highest passer rating in the NFL, 140.1. Through the last 6 games, 140.1. How about this? Goff is the only player in history of the NFL who for 6 straight games had a completion rate of 72% or higher, a passer rating of 105 or higher, plus he threw a TD. Never been done before in the NFL. He is also the only player in the NFL with 15 or more attempts per game to complete 80% of his passes in 3 straight games within a single season. How about throwing a perfect game? Anybody in the NFL throwing a perfect game recently? Any other quarterback? Nope. Well, the answer is this. Versus the Seahawks, Goff set 2 records, not just one, both single-game NFL records. 1 for the most passing yards, 292, and 2 for the most attempts, 18, without an incompletion. He also had a 155.8 passer rating, just 3 points away from what would have been his second perfect passer rating of the season. It's so incredibly rare for a quarterback to throw a perfect game. And we're talking starting quarterbacks, right? Quarterbacks that are throwing 15 or more attempts per game. Not quarterbacks that are filling in, for a fourth quarter and they go 3 for 3 or 4 for 4. We're talking a starting quarterback starting and finishing a game, throwing a perfect game. But it's so rare that the last person to have the highest mark was Kurt Warner back in 2005. He had 10 passes on target. And before that was 2005, Coy Detmer. So same year, both those guys. And Coy Detmer had 9 passes. Beyond that, though, Goff broke an 85-year-old NFL record when he did this. It was previously held by Frank Filchuk, who threw for 179 yards in 1939 during his perfect game. Man, this list is long and I'm almost out of breath. How about this? The jersey that Jared Goff wore during that game is now proudly displayed in the Pro Football Hall of Fame gallery. Thankfully, because I was there last summer and there's not a whole lot of Lions stuff in there, but there will be soon enough. How about this? Goff is the only player in the NFL to have multiple games with a perfect passer rating, combined with 400-plus passing yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. It's one thing to get a perfect passer rating, right? It's an entirely different matter to do this while putting up huge numbers and multiple TDs in a game, right? I mean, I'm sure somebody could go, 15 of 15 for 200 yards and 1 TD. But you're talking 18 of 18 or, whatever Goff has done this season, right? 400-plus passing yards and 4 TDs in a game. That's insane. How about this? His most recent perfect passer rating game was against Jacksonville. Now, he completed 24 of 29 passes, which was another incredible mark for him in this game. Near perfect again, 412 yards and 4 TDs. Insane. Perfect pass rating 158.3. Jared Goff has 2 of the NFL's 7 games ever with 400 yards, 4 TDs, and a 158.3 passer rating. It was until this season, it was versus the Jaguars, so same game, that no other quarterback in NFL history has done this twice in a career. Now, in 2018, while the Rams had Goff. Goff also had a 465-yard game with 5 TDs and 158.3 passer rating. Now, that has nothing to do with this season, but it just, again, it shows you the type of athlete and quarterback that Jared Goff is. Moving on. Goff threw for over 4,000 yards again this season for his 5th time in his career and 3rd straight. He is now tied for 5th all-time with Aaron Rodgers for the most seasons over 4,000 yards all-time. Only 6 quarterbacks have thrown for more in the history of the NFL that reside in Canton. Goff also became the 3rd quarterback in Lions history to record a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown during his tenure with the team. Not just the same season, but ever with the team. Now, during the 2-game span, Goff also completed 36 of 41 passes, an 87.8% completion rate, which tied for the 2nd highest completion rate for a quarterback with at least 40 attempts over any 2-game span since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. It is now an NFL record. Yep, we still got more. I told you, there's a reason why Jared Goff deserves this, and I get it. You know, he was an all-pro snub, in my opinion. I think that, you know, your all-pros generally have a leg up when it comes to MVP honors if they make it, you know, whether it's to the Super Bowl or, you know, the end of the year MVP. But this year, man, Goff got snubbed, in my opinion. He's clearly got the better records. He's clearly has the better stats, or the majority of stats. But let's dive into some team records, shall we? Point differential, 222 points this season for the Detroit Lions, 1st in the NFL. How about points on the season? The Lions scored 564 points, 33.2 per game, 1st in the NFL. How about touchdowns scored this season? 70. Tied 4th most NFL history, 1st in the NFL this season. How about wins? 15. They are the 9th team in NFL history to win at least 15 games. 9th team in the history of the NFL to win 15 games. How about consecutive wins? 11. Consecutive road wins? 8. And not only did they sweep their road games, but they also sweep, you know, their division. Points, 564. Net yards, 6,962. Single game net yards, the Lions team record is 645 total yards versus Jacksonville. Touchdowns, they scored 70 touchdowns on the season, of which 29 were rushing touchdowns. First downs, the Lions put up 410 first downs. Games with 40-plus points, they put up 6. Games with 30-plus points this season, they put up 10. How about consecutive games with 20-plus points? How about 15? Margin of victory, the Lions' largest margin of victory was 46 points against Jacksonville in Week 11. First downs, the most first downs in a season for the Detroit Lions in one game is 38, was also against Jacksonville. Now we're going to get into some franchise records and team records. The Lions, number 1 conference seed, first time ever. Back-to-back division champions. Back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Swept the division 6-0. Swept the road schedule 8-0. Completion percentage in a game with 25-plus attempts, 88%. Jared Goff, Week 7 against Minnesota. Now some NFL records that Jared Goff is now a part of. First team in NFL history to have 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers hit at least 1,000 yards in a season. How about most games with 40-plus points, which is 6, and they are now tied for first in the NFL record books. Why does all that matter, right? I mean, that was more than a mouthful. That was a ton of information. There's a lot of records. And to be honest with you, not all of them are team records, right? Not all of them are franchise records. A large majority of these are Jared Goff records. There's more than 23 different stats in here that Jared Goff has either had a career best, NFL best, single season NFL best, or an NFL record. And that's pretty incredible because when you look at the other guys that he's going up against, we'll start with Josh Allen. And I'm not going to go deep into these guys, right? You want to make a video and tell me why Jared Goff deserves the MVP? Please do. Because what I see for Josh Allen is I see a QBR of 77.2. Okay, he's 2nd in the NFL. Jared Goff, he didn't have the highest QBR. He finished 6th in the NFL. Josh Allen had 4 seasons over 4,000 passing yards. Last one was 2023. He didn't have over 4,000 this year. And he only has 4 seasons over 4,000 yards. Jared Goff, man, how many seasons does he have over 4,000 yards? He has a lot. I think he has 6 now. So Josh Allen, 63.6% completion percentage on the season. I mean, Jared's got him by 10 points almost in completion percentage. He only put up 3,731 yards, 28 TDs to 6 interceptions. Well, Jared Goff put up a 72.4% completion rate, 4th highest in NFL history, by the way, 37 TDs to 12 interceptions. Do I care about the interceptions? I absolutely don't. And the reason why is because Jared Goff put up the ball 56 more times than Josh Allen on the season. And when you look at Jared Goff's average of 31.7 passes per game, that's almost 2 extra games that Jared Goff put up the ball more than Josh Allen. So yeah, you're going to have a few more interceptions. And to be honest with you, 5 of them only came in 1 game. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's not like Jared Goff was just out there willy-nilly throwing interceptions all season. It literally happened in a few games this season. That's it. And the majority of them happened in 1 game. But did Josh separate himself? Did he break a bunch of franchise and NFL records this season? The answer is no. He didn't. Now, they set a franchise record for 63 touchdowns. Lions had 70. How about points scored? They had 509, right? That's a franchise record for the Bills. Well, the Lions had how much? How many points did the Lions have this season? 564. Most in the NFL. How about they tied an NFL record by scoring 30-plus points in 8 consecutive games. Okay, 30-plus points in 8 consecutive games. Now, I gave that stat out earlier for the Lions, and how many games did they score 30-plus points this season? The Lions had 10 games with 30-plus points. Now, they had consecutive games, 20, with 15-plus points. Let's see this. The Bills led in point differential, 164 points over the AFC, and we know that the Lions were tops in the NFL with over 220 points on the season. They went undefeated at home. We went undefeated on the road. I think that's a little bit more important, right? It's harder to play away than it is to play at home. Generally, you don't lose games at home. That's it. That's all that I see for Jared Goff or for Josh Allen. Not a whole lot. Definitely not 10 minutes worth of me speaking of records. It's a couple. That's all it is. How about Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson, QBR, was first in the NFL this year, 77.5. He had 1 season of 4,000 passing yards, and that was this year. He's never had that before. He had 6 games with a 75% completion rate this season. 6 games with a 75 completion percentage this year. Jared had 9. And by the way, he had 5 games with 80% or better this season. So 14 games, Jared Goff, 14 games. He had a 75% completion percentage or better. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Lamar Jackson had 3 games over 80% completion rate this year. And again, Jared Goff had 5. 66.7% completion percentage in passing. Well, we know that Jared Goff was better than that. Jared Goff was 72.4, which was 4th in NFL history. Lamar Jackson threw for 4,172 yards, 41 TDs, 4 more than Jared Goff, and only 4 interceptions, 8 less than Jared Goff. Those are pretty incredible stats. Absolutely, pretty incredible stats. But when you look at the totality of the season, again, the answer is MVP. Was Lamar Jackson the most valuable player in the league for the team, for a group? Did he do more to win games than what Jared Goff did to win games? That's the question that needs to be answered. Jared Goff threw the ball 65 more times than Lamar Jackson. Again, another full 2 games worth more by Jared Goff putting up the football. So when you think about that, I mean, honestly, think about it for a moment. Jared Goff is averaging 72.4% completion rate. Put up 37 TDs, 12 interceptions, a 68.5 QBR, 14 games over 75% completion rate, 5 games over 80, 5 games over 300 yards passing, 2 games over 400 yards passing. Multiple TD games. And you compare that to Lamar and Josh. 72.4% completion, throwing the ball 2 more games worth. Jared threw up the ball basically 19 games worth this season. And he was still able to maintain a 72.4% completion percentage. And all Lamar could muster was a 66.7, and Josh Allen, a 63.6, even worse. And when you look at passer rating, and completion percentage, I think that those are probably the 2 most important, right? So when we look at Next Gen Stats or NFL Pro, you see that Lamar had 3.14 seconds of time to throw. He led the league in time to throw. Okay? Best in the league. And Allen had 2.88 seconds of time to throw. Good for 11th place in the league. Jared Goff had 2.79 seconds of time to throw on average. 2.79 seconds. It was good for 19th in the league. Jared was more accurate. He put up more yards, right? Right in the same ballpark for touchdowns, and had way less time. I mean, he had almost a half a second less time than Lamar Jackson. That's eternity in the NFL. But the numbers that I really like to look at is not only who's just more accurate, who put up more yards and more TDs and less interceptions, but how about your best completion percentage, over expected. How did you perform over what was expected, right? Jared Goff, 4.3% over expected. Pretty much tied with Allen and Jackson for EPA per dropback. And by the way, the single season leader in passing EPA usually wins the MVP award, and especially recently, 5 out of the last 6. So they're even, right? So let me explain one other thing about passer rating and passing EPA. These are both highly correlated metrics. Passer rating comprises of TD percent, interception percent, completion percentage, and yards per attempt, while passing EPA accounts more for the game situation. What decisions is the quarterback making in the game? So if Goff is tied with Lamar and Josh Allen with EPA and has the second best passer rating of 111.8, and Lamar Jackson has the best rating at 119.6, in my opinion, this is a dead even heat. That's the only mark that Lamar really has better, other than 4 TDs, is the passer rating at 119.6 to Jared Goff's 111.8. But EPA and all those other things are dead even. Jared has less time, more accurate. So I don't think that you can base all that on just those metrics alone, right? That is why you have to look at what these players did in each game and how they helped the game, right? How they helped their team win. And for me, the MVP of their team, or this season, did they help their team win more or win less? And I would say that Jared Goff definitely helped his team win more. Without Jared Goff's performance this season, tell me another quarterback that is going to come in and have those same statistics or better and put up the performance that Jared Goff did. He smashed all sorts of records. The list is light for Lamar and Josh. The list is very long for Jared on what he's done this season. Now, hopefully the All-Pro snub, I think that Jared definitely deserved at least, being on the second team All-Pro. And hopefully that snub will turn into an MVP, but something tells me it won't. And that's because the AP to me is disgusting, and it needs to be recycled with new people. They definitely need a new approach of how they're doing this voting and figuring out, all this stuff for these awards, because they also vote for the MVP. And I can just see another snub job coming to the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. It doesn't make any sense. Jared has had by far the better season, by far the most meaningful season in Detroit Lions history. And I think that that's what you have to look at, was Jared's performance, not only one of the best performances in the NFL, but by and large, what he did for his team and setting all of these franchise records, individual records, NFL records, and putting this team where it is in the number 1 seed for the first time ever means more to me than any other stat. Jared Goff is my vote for MVP. Go One Pride, go Detroit. We'll see you on the next one.
Rocked on Detroit Lions will